Ladies and gentlemen, for the better part of the previous century, there was a debate that local politics within sovereign states must be guided by one or the other of a dominant ideology. Pacts were set up which were far beyond the security pacts which led to the formation of NATO and SEATO and CENTO and in Warsaw. The communists set up something called the Communist International. How could they encourage the propagation of communist governments all over the world? It was called Comintern. You can argue that the Western powers did nothing less, from Korea to Vietnam to all over South America, in the Middle East, in Africa, indeed in Eastern Europe. Every effort was made that the politics of sovereign states, which today should be the politics of sovereign states, be influenced by a global ideology. Now, India is a democratic sovereign state that has seen the largest democratic exercise ever conducted in the history of humanity just conclude. Right before that exercise, the now leader of the opposition and former president of the Congress party was doing foreign tours, one of which was to the United Kingdom, where he, as a fellow of one of the Cambridge societies, went and made a presentation in which he spoke on several matters, including what he felt were the problems in India, why he felt that India was becoming autocratic and dictatorial, and more importantly, what inspiration he took from certain communist leaders about how China was functioning. Now the elections are over and he is in parliament, an elected member of parliament who's now become the leader of opposition. And he has written a letter to the now Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. In that letter, he writes that when you are discussing specific issues which have led you to power, including the people's good, including social equality, well, I share your commitment to these issues. The text of the letter there is on your screen. Now, any member of parliament, any individual, you and me, can also write a letter congratulating a person who's been elected to head of government in a different country. So is it just that, or is there something to be read in these paragraphs which have been signed off by Rahul Gandhi that are suggesting, many would say, that look, in other countries where the UK, for example, 14 years of conservative, which is considered a right of centre rule, has ended and a left Labour Party is back. That yes, in the United States, regardless, Joe Biden did defeat Donald Trump and did become president regardless of what happens in the next election. So a left of centre party came back. Some of those things rankle here. You saw so much talk of the extreme rich, the industrialists, the top 22. Does that sound familiar? Does it sound like the top 1% of a certain Bernie Sanders being brought by a recently expelled and now reinstated individual of the Overseas Congress? Could be. Let's open up this conversation to understand whether it is. Joining us on the broadcast, Professor Madhav Nalapat is with us, Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee is with us, Sumit Peer is with us, and Manasvi Thapar is also joining us on the broadcast. Ambassador Mukherjee, let me first understand with you, is it common practice, for example, if Narendra Modi recently became Prime Minister, would he also not be receiving congratulations only from heads of government? It would be normal to receive congratulation letters and text messages and phone calls from other political leaders as well.
It is normally common practice, Rishabh, to receive messages from his counterpart heads of state and government. But it is not unusual to receive letters also from leaders of opposition, particularly if they happen to have a historic relationship with our country, as the United Kingdom does, having been our colonizer for 188 years. That being said, it is also highly unusual for a prominent leader of an opposition, of India's opposition, to go abroad and to make highly critical remarks about the state of the Indian democracy, because this was not the practice earlier followed by any political party. The understanding between political parties, as I was growing up in post-independent India, was that while you would be highly critical inside India or in parliament or in media, outside India, you would present a united front as far as the state of the Indian democracy, politics, etc. Is concerned. That was only broken when Mrs. Gandhi imposed the emergency. But apart from Mrs. Gandhi imposing the emergency, this rule was more or less followed, which is why Atal Bihari Vajpayee, for instance, was sent, though he was leader of the opposition, to lead the Indian delegation to the UN General Assembly when I was posted in New York. So this is a break from the tradition. And again, it is interesting that the leader of the opposition has first sent a letter of commiseration to the outgoing Prime Minister of United Kingdom, who was of Indian origin, who is of Indian origin, and has sent a letter of felicitation to the incumbent Prime Minister, who is from the Labour Party, a party with which historically, in my experience, having dealt with Europe West for 6 years as Joint Secretary, we've always had a much more rocky relationship than we've had with the Conservatives. For obvious reasons, you can see for yourself, Rishabh, the Justice Secretary Justice is from the POK, and she was there in the Indian High Commission premises when it was being vandalized. She wrote a highly controversial letter about internal affairs of India, including Jammu and Kashmir, etc. So these are the many reasons why, regardless of whichever government is in power in India,
Yes.
we've always had a much more rocky relationship with the Labour Party than with the
Yeah, but
Conservatives,
you can,
except at the time of Tony Blair.
yes. So you can argue that yes, when a Priti Patel became Home Minister, well, that was another person of Indian origin in the UK, Home Secretary rather, and but her outlook towards India was not very helpful. One can argue. But this is a different Labour Party. Let me get Professor Nalapat in. Professor Nalapat, this is a different Labour Party to what it was just a few years ago under Jeremy Corbyn, in which Jeremy Corbyn, during the floor of a Labour Party conference, moved a resolution highly critical of India's position on internal matters. His brother, of course, Piers Corbyn, infamous for attending Khalistani rallies and joining their cause. Jeremy Corbyn, ladies and gentlemen, indeed fought as an independent after being ousted from the Labour Party. He's won his seat. If I recall correctly, and we'll try to put that image on your screens, I think that Rahul Gandhi had travelled in one of his UK visits, had even met with Jeremy Corbyn, who was very critical of India's position on several things. We'll try to put that photograph on your screens. It was recently in the last 2 or 3 years. So what do you make of this then? What do you make of this letter, Professor Nalapat?
Well, first I'd like to say that yes, the people of India have spoken, and that is why Narendra Modi is now Prime Minister for a third time, and why Rahul Gandhi is not the Prime Minister. He has, of course, become the leader of the opposition. Why? Because the people have chosen him to become just the leader of the opposition, not really the people, but his own party has chosen him. And as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, the people have given the BJP enough seats to ensure that Prime Minister Modi returns to a third term. So it is the people who have done that. So I mean, I can't make up my mind whether Rahul Gandhi is very happy about the fact that that Prime Minister Modi has come back, because I think he's forgetting when he's making a general comment about the public will and about basically the public choice. Well, he's talking to a leader who has won, but he himself is a leader who wanted the top job and who has not won. So that is a bit of a contradiction, if you ask me, in what he's writing and what he's must be thinking. I'd like to say that yes, writing a letter by the leader of the opposition, obviously Rahul Gandhi is paying very close attention to the Anglosphere on both sides of the Atlantic, the UK and the US, and I'm sure he'll be looking at Australia and New Zealand as well. He's paying very close attention to the Anglosphere, and his effort is to try and get as many Anglospheric minds together and influential people together to have a vision of India that is completely opposite of the truth. Rahul Gandhi, just a few weeks almost, after he said that India is not a democracy, there's really no hope for democracy in India, his party fought and won the election in Karnataka. Rahul Gandhi has never denied that he has said that India is no democracy, that democracy has failed in India, and yet his party got almost, and not exactly double, but almost double the seats, and he is now the official leader of the opposition. That is all been done by democracy. The very democracy that has failed has given him the high constitutional position of leader of the opposition. It has given his party double the number of seats it had in the previous parliament, but it has also given Narendra Modi a third term as prime minister. So I think that verdict of the people needs to be not only appreciated on paper, but in fact.
So if for the sake of our viewers, let me now cut to the chase. Okay, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen, is this, that for a decade, you can argue between 2010 and 2020, you saw a global tilt. And the global tilt is telling you that there was a tilt to the right of center of politics. You had the Conservative Party ruling in England for the past 14 years. You had a Donald Trump who came to power in the United States. And you had a Narendra Modi who came and won an election here and has been here since 2014. Now, it seems that Rahul Gandhi seems to be putting out a message, and whether he's putting it out or a certain individual who's standing with him there is helping him put out, that, listen, we are back, right? A left of center win is happening in the UK after 14 years. Joe Biden is still around. The Democrats have been ruling in the US for the past 4 years. And we have improved our margin in India. So left politics is back. Sumit Pir, you take that thought, then Manasvi.
Rishabh ji, thank you for having me on your show. I want to make a couple of points. You're absolutely right when the letter comes. Let me take five things I want to point out why this letter has come and what is Rahul Gandhi's real intention. Look, Labour, we are known to be traditionally against India, what Basmati ma'am rightly pointed out. We had problems with them. There was a leader, Jeremy Corbyn, who called for a special adivation or a special session wherein he said Kashmir is an disputed issue, it's an international issue. He compared Kashmir with Palestine. Now, what happened yesterday? When the new prime minister takes on, the first thing he said Kashmir is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. That's a big hard one for Rahul Gandhi. Second point, he says all these people who are trying to interfere in the internal affairs of the countries, like people who come with hunger index, democracy index, press freedom index, all those cottage industry which runs in US and Europe, they should not do it. Point number 3, there was a Labour MP who came to India, Mr. Lame, and he went on record saying that India is the technology superpower of the Asia and we are going to collaborate with them. Point number 4, he says, look, we are India, Mr. Prime Minister says, Mr. Starmer says, we are going to have a strategic partnership with India, which is unlike of Labour. And point number 5 is he wants an FTA with India, with Man Mobility Pact. There was Suva Bremen, there were issues which we could not do it. He wants to sell us his jets. He wants investment in his country. And let's not forget, Rishabh, from number 3rd, we have come to number 2nd FDI investors in United Kingdom. He knows it. While in the trade, we are number 12th. So he wants to bring it up to the top 5. So he sees India as the most relevant place. And this U-turn in all the affairs has irked Rahul Gandhi and his supporters and his sympathizers. That is why he's writing him the lines. Do kindly go back to the things which made you come to the power. He's hinting to him, bhai, go back to all this rhetoric, go back to that anti-India bashing, go back to the anti-Modi bashing, go back to that leftist thought, because these 5-6 things when have happened, Rahul Gandhi and Pakistan are equally irked. They don't know what to do next.
That's an interesting perspective, because let me put on record before I get Manasvi in. What has he said? He says, and I quote, I extend my heartiest congratulations on your remarkable electoral victory, a significant achievement for the Labour Party and for you personally. Your campaign's emphasis on economic growth with equality, better opportunities for all through stronger social services and community empowerment clearly struck a chord with the people of the UK, reflecting their aspirations for a brighter future. As someone committed to these ideals, I congratulate you and the people of the UK for championing them. Now, it can be as innocuous as it gets, as a formal letter should be, or it could be as loaded as it gets. We leave our viewers to make an interpretation. Manasvi Thapar, there's no running away from it. this is not the Labour Party of Jeremy Corbyn. This is a completely different Labour Party. They've rejected the extreme hardline views of Jeremy Corbyn. They've in fact kicked him out of the party. That he's managed to win a seat of the 600 plus seats is not really relevant to politics in the UK right now. So what do you make of Rahul Gandhi's letter to Keir Starmer?
I think it's about a global outreach that as the Prime Minister reaches out to the new Prime Minister of the UK, the opposition leader also reaches out to the new Prime Minister of UK. So there is nothing to read about it. It's about strengthening Indian alliances with global countries. So there's nothing out of it that it's a left of center or center of left and now we are back in power or we are not in power. Rahul Gandhi understands he's a leader of opposition. He's not trying to be the Prime Minister of India. He knows the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of India, and also the Prime Minister of UK understands who the Prime Minister of India is. So it's an outreach. So it's not about Rahul Gandhi or Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There are 140 crore Indians and people, and apart from Indians being in India, there are hundreds of thousands of Indian origin people living in UK, and India has the largest number of people working in UK. So Indian origin people are there. So it's a global outreach that we are showing our strength. And why don't we understand in a democracy, if the Prime Minister makes a statement, it's the greatest statement of the world. And if the opposition leader makes a statement that's anti-national or that is center of left, or you read out as per your convenience, that's not healthy for the democracy. On the contrary, it's a united statement. He did not criticize in his letter on the operations what are happening in India. He did not criticize the Prime Minister. He did not criticize the governance of India as of now. He just congratulated him. So it's a congratulatory letter and it should be taken as a congratulatory letter. And bilateral relationship between India and UK, and for that matter with India, with all the world countries of the world, it is important. And when LOPs and prime ministers reach out, that means India is a united front. Okay. You want to invest in India, you want to do business with India, we are as Indians united. The LOP is reaching out to you. That means there is a portion of voters who are also reaching out to you.
Okay, so Manasvi, let me ask a follow-up question. Then where is the line? Okay, because as leader of the opposition, you're saying, okay, and I've read out the letter as it is, all right, and says, look, he's not criticized the country, he's not criticizing Narendra Modi, he's not, necessarily mentioning Indian politics. So you can say he is put out a letter and he says, congratulations, and I feel the same and I support your progressive views and I'm with you, perfectly fine. But where's the line? Because then the same Rahul Gandhi goes with Sam Pitroda 2 years ago and meets a Jeremy Corbyn, okay? And we all know what Jeremy Corbyn is up to. His brother is attending Khalistani rallies. He's raising resolutions on the Labour Party conference floor. I think I remember it happened in Manchester, if I'm not mistaken, on Kashmir. Where's the line?
His brother doing anything with Khalistanis does not have any relationship with Congress Party doing it. On the contrary, Congress Party was the one who got away Khalistanis from Punjab. They were the one who started the Blue Star operation. So we can't say the Congress Party is the Khalistani incubator or they are promoting a Khalistani movement in India. If that is the case, why there is no anti-national law invoked against the Congress Party? That is not the case. It is the person.
No, and I didn't suggest that. I just said you have a choice of who you go to meet and interact with. It's a choice. It doesn't happen happenstance that I bumped into Jeremy Corbyn in a restaurant. I went with Sam Pitroda to go meet him, knowing that he has very strong positions on certain things about India.
No, so I think it is you pick and choose, and then you can also bring up that MOU signed with the Communist Party of India. The counter question would be that BJP is in 10 years in party. They could not get that MOU out. Was it an anti-national MOU or was it just a piece of paper which had nothing in it? So these are all subjective notions which we are trying to build up. You meet someone and you do business with someone and there is some kind of interaction. I don't think Britain has the power or control to govern Indian politics. That is not the state of Britain since independence. So we can't give that kind of a narrative to Britain. We are making Britain bigger than India. That is not the case.
Okay. Now there's something.
And there's nothing which is going to stop India.
There's one thing which is fundamentally different, and I want to be practical and pragmatic enough to accept it. A month ago or 2 months ago, we were in a general election cycle, okay? Elections are a bit rough and tough and not the most pleasant things happen, and you can argue that on both sides. But now the elections are over, there's a stable government, it's likely to be stable for 5 years. So then, Ambassador Mukherjee, where is the line? The letter itself, you can't find many contradictory things, but there is a pattern of events. Is Rahul Gandhi scripting them or somebody else is scripting them sitting in a different city in the United States, maybe a Chicago, we don't know. But where's the line?
The line is that there is a fundamental difference between the Rahul Gandhi before he became leader of the opposition and now, in the sense that his actions that he took, that you have listed, and which Mr. Thapar tried to justify, unfortunately do not tally with the normal practice, which was that we don't criticize our country outside India. The letter that he has written now as leader of the opposition, he's perfectly entitled to write, because Mr.
Rishabh,
Thapar
allow-
has pointed out, if please allow me to finish, I did not interrupt you, Mr. Thapar, allow me to finish, please. He has written a letter of felicitation, but there can be no doubt that in the letter, he has moved very far away from the earlier ideological position that he had taken, where he had supported the extreme left-wing faction of the Labour Party, which was harmful for Labour winning elections, and Labour has come to power by moving much more to right of centre. So the letter the letter by the leader of opposition reflects that shift, but it cannot explain why he took such an extreme left radical position earlier, which was inimical, in my perspective, as a professional hard-nosed diplomat of 39 years. It was inimical to India's national interest. It has nothing to do with the Congress party. Everybody knows the contribution of the Congress party to India's freedom struggle. But the positions taken by Mr. Gandhi at that point of time, when he was in an important position in the Congress party, in my perspective, were inimical to India's national interest and should not have been voiced outside India.
Okay. Manasvi wants to make an interjection, and I see Sumit's hand up also. I'll leave the last word to Professor Nalapan. So, Manasvi?
I feel it's too much of a reading. I think it is just a letter written by Rahul Gandhi to the new Prime Minister, and I think there's nothing else to be read about it. And on the contrary, if we have interfered in the democracies of any other country, it was Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's stadium when he said "Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar," which has never happened in the past. So it is not about who's interfering or not interfering. It's about power of India. You look at it in a way that the Prime Minister is congratulating, the LOP is congratulating. It's a powerful House of India unitedly congratulating the Prime Minister of Britain. So there's nothing out of it. And we are a strong nation. We can't be, I don't think that we should worry about there's a left leader coming to India, he may attack India, divide India. That's not going to happen. We are strong Indians, and that is not going to happen. So let's not create an environment wherein this is wrong, that is right. It's a congratulatory letter.
Okay, fair enough. So Sumit wants to make an interjection. I'll leave the last word to Professor Nalapan. Sumit.
Rishabh, there are 2 or 3 quick points. First of all, you are on the panel, Professor Saab is there, Madam is there. And millions of people will watch this. In diplomacy, you don't write things explicitly, you write in between the words. There's a lot which can be interpreted, which is written in between the words, as Basmati ma'am will agree. Point number 2, with all this changed stance of Labour, which has not been their traditional stance, that pro-India stance, is there a word or a sentence which reiterates from Mr. Rahul Gandhi, okay, we welcome your changed stance, or we are welcoming the, things which you have told in your manifesto and the statements you have given? He has not mentioned that. Point number 3, last time when the whole hangama was there, Rahul Gandhi is going to Cambridge, as if he's going to, address whomever. He went to a Jesus college and he addressed at least 15 chhatra, 15 students in the canteen. If that can be made as a big international event, and what all he spoke there. Last point I want to make is that with him saying that I want to come and meet you there, what exactly is this? Now, if we correlate the things which have happened in the past, we read in between the lines and I want to come and meet you there. Hey, buddy, why are you changing your fundamental stand? This is not good for us. Because their stand, which was anti-India, is now leaning to India rather than endorsing him. He's saying you should not go back to where people elected you. How is he telling him what people elected him from and what should he go back to? I can see a lot of things which are written in between the lines. Letter is not drafted by Rahul Gandhi. I don't know who drafted this letter, but you can very soon see him going there and फिर तेरी कहानी याद आएगी with startup.
Well, because a certain individual, as I mentioned, has been reinstated in a particular position that he held until a few weeks ago. So I'll leave a last word with Professor Nalapat, because people can change their positions, they can fine-tune their positions, they can apply a different approach to matters. And I mentioned an electoral build-up is something different to once the elections are over. So let me just quickly read this out for 1 second on record, what you're seeing on your screens. This is Rahul Gandhi in Cambridge where he's a fellow of one of the Cambridge societies, making a PowerPoint presentation, which you see on your screens. This is what he said, and I'm quoting, "Indian democracy is under pressure, is under attack, an attack on the basic structure of Indian democracy. Parliamentarians are locked up and put in jail 3 or 4 times. You've also heard of the attack on minorities. There is a shutdown of dissent in the country. China doesn't want things to go out of control. They've had huge tremors in the past. This is legitimate as individual liberty. A senior gentleman in the Communist Party shaped my view. What he said was something I've never heard from a Westerner. You can understand what the Belt and Road looks like. You can understand why it does what it does." Okay. So on issue of democracy, on issue of the Belt and Road Initiative, on which India has a fundamental opposition position, he says he understands. He goes on several other things which are playing on your screens. So Professor Nalapat, is that okay? Before the election, you said certain things and do certain things, and after the elections, now you are in a responsible post of LOP. It's different.
Well, I'd like to say that I don't think you can change your mind all of a sudden because you got a change of job. The fact is that if you call China a better functioning country for the people than India, then it's an extremely authoritarian state. One thing I will say, though, in the 1990s, Narasimha Rao tried some economic reforms, which about 1/3 were carried out, 2/3 were not carried out. Had it been carried out in full, India would have got the tens of billions of dollars of external investment that came to China in the 1990s. The big gainer from there was China. Now in the 2020s, again, we have a chance to have hundreds of billions of dollars coming in the country as investment if we have a proper investment climate, which means a capital-friendly climate, which means a climate that does not bash people just because they're well off. If we look at the backgrounds of all the people who have been speaking on this show, I don't think anybody can be said to be below the poverty line. Certainly not. So the fact of the matter is, this is our big chance. And now with Modi 3.0, we have an opportunity to seize that chance. The fact is that by flirting with radical elements, by saying that if I were not in the Congress party, I would be with the Communist Party and various other things, Rahul Gandhi is sending a signal to investors, don't put your money in India. Keep it in China. Don't leave China. Don't put your money in India. I'm not saying he's doing it on purpose. I'm only saying that's the effect. So I do hope that he will judge the full impact of whatever he says before he says it.
Okay.
For the next 3-4 years, either we get this hundreds of millions of dollars investment, or we're going to have a very tough time with youth unemployment while the demographic dividend is going on.
Okay, I'm out of time, so I'll leave it with this thought. If in politics a struggle is required, you'll have to accept that Rahul Gandhi has had a political struggle for the past 10 years. The party has not been in the best of shape at the time when he's been emerging as the center point leader of the party. That struggle will continue. So yes, a struggle is involved. But he has a responsible position now as a leader of the opposition. Elections are, of course, now over, and election rhetoric happens unpleasantly on both sides. So the question now is, what do you judge this, or the summation of the events from Cambridge, the meeting with Jeremy Corbyn, this letter to the now Prime Minister who actually ousted Jeremy Corbyn from the leadership of the Labour Party? Or is it, as Manasvi says, something totally innocuous?
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.